I'm Toni Blackman. I am an artist and a social entrepreneur. I am the the U.S. Department of State's first cultural ambassador for hip hop. That work has taken me to 48 countries around the world, both as an independent artist and in official capacity. And so now I have all these artist friends in every corner of the globe, doing all sorts of things from visual art to music and writing and making films.
My name is Vinicius. I'm actually from Brazil. I'm in Rio de Janeiro, but I have been working with all sorts of groups, collectives, networks that are related to the regenerative and peer-to-peer movement.
Hey, my name is Akasha Rose. I've been in blockchain since 2017. I started one of the world's first women on blockchain Telegram groups, advised and worked as a consultant at probably up to about 20 blockchain projects. I'm currently working at Civic Ledger, which is a blockchain project in Australia that's been started since 2016. And of course, I'm one of the co-founders of CommonPlace DAOs. Our vision at CommonPlace DAOs is to bring together the people working in the well-being economy. So people who are really focused on regenerative finance, so economic justice, and also the sustainability development goals. So bringing them together with the developers of the blockchain world and the decentralized finance world so that they can cross-pollinate their ideas together.
My name is Peter Kaminski, and my general background is being an entrepreneur and product development and technologist for web things for the past 30 years or so.
My name is Rob Tyrie. I'm a 35-year professional in the information technology world. I work with very large companies, and what I do continuously over my whole career is I bring new technologies to people who need it that are expanding quickly. I'm a growth specialist. So for example, I brought the internet cloud technology in the year 2000 through a software company to an insurance company called Allstate Insurance. They had 38,000 agents that needed to use software. Prior to us being there, they would package up 38,000 separate pieces of software and deliver it to those agents. And it took millions and millions of dollars to get that experience the same for all those agents so they could sell insurance to their customers. We replaced that with one way of doing business, all based on the cloud. So they all had the same software and was all easy to maintain. Instead of costing tens of millions of dollars, it cost $1 million or $2 million to support that same effort. I do things like that. And what I did a year ago with two co-founders, we started the Grace One Guild. The Grace One Guild is a collection of people that have been brought together to apply new techniques, new approaches like sense making to the problems that we have every day. It was born of the pandemic to create analysis and thinking about changes to economy and health to the world. We've gathered together from 3 people to 3,000 people all in a year.
My background is in mechanical engineering and design innovation. And I've been through a few different fellowship programs, one in particular, the University Innovation Fellows, which was about basically bringing innovation into higher education and trying to create systems change from the kind of grassroots level. And as part of that program, I developed an idea for how to basically connect students to what's happening on a campus, because I realized that people were working on the same startup and not knowing that somebody else was in the next dorm over with the same idea. And there was a real lack of collaboration across silos. And fast forwarding a few years later and finding Kikolab, the Catalyst project turned into basically a social network combined with a knowledge repository for groups and online communities. And we basically got to, after pitching this idea in one of the Kikolab hot seats, we got to basically get the chance to test it out. And as someone who's developing an MVP, especially for an idea that's a little bit crazy, having a community to actually test what you're working on against is super, super valuable. And we were able to do that with Lauren and Kikolab.
My project is called Massive Wiki. And so Massive Wiki is a a way to make wikis kind of better, more decentralized. And that was one of the things that I presented in a lightning talk kind of thing at Kiko Lab. So that was something where I was able to get exposure for my ideas and the thing that I was putting together, and also feedback from the community.
Bring people who are trying to solve problems closer to the people that are making the software, because software is situational. So if you don't talk to those people, you can still make something that's really useful. But if you don't know all the problem context and the final demand for what they're trying to do, you will make something that someone has to do more work to make the final last mile to the people that use it.
The really important things I learned from being in Kiko Lab and also bringing an innovation there and having it tested was it's super helpful to have a really diverse group and really diverse perspectives there, because sometimes you get conflicting feedback, and being able to test it against a whole group of people from different backgrounds and different skill sets, and especially people who are not just technologists, was really, really incredible. Especially in trying to build tools that are more democratic and accessible, not just for software engineers. And when it comes to actually like incubating and testing ideas, I think what's really important is the culture. So creating a culture of innovation and creativity where people feel like they can share their ideas and not be shamed for having different ideas. So encouraging that sort of diversity of thought. And I think the way that you can kind of design the different processes, for example, ways for people to share what they're working on in just like a 1-minute pitch, ways for people to dive deeper and actually like take on leadership positions and host their own sessions. I think there's a really interesting way to kind of scramble and play with the roles in a group where you are able to allow people to basically experience different roles. And that's really helpful for being able to think differently as well.
But if you do what you're talking about, where you start to get them talking to each other, then you'll expand the language and vocabulary on both ends, and they'll see the utility. People in communities trying to do stuff will see the utility of the software and have direct access to the people that write it.
In designing a new fellowship, I would say there needs to be a combination of sort of structure and long-term planning, and also allowing room and space for more creative play and working time. And so building different sessions around co-mentoring and open sharing of ideas and feedback is definitely going to be a big component of it. I think then having a kind of structured curriculum where you're able to introduce different concepts in a way that don't feel overwhelming for the groups that are taking in a lot of new information, but then can be applied almost immediately. I think when it comes to rapid learning, having this balance between what you learn and the application of that knowledge is what really solidifies it. And so in the same way for the different projects, kind of knowing where that balance lies, and even before starting designing the session, doing a sort of landscape canvas of the different people who are involved. So you kind of know, okay, do these groups have a lot of information, but they just don't know how to apply it and they need new tools and methodologies? Or do we need to actually like increase the amount of sort of content that people are being exposed to, so they have other ways of thinking about the problems that they're facing?
Lauren's vision to connect us, to build a web where we can share resources and information and build relationships that are healthy and sustainable, is actually something a lot of people talk about, but not a lot of them are doing it.
Lauren brings a lot of depth and intelligence to thinking about how people can work together, and setting up activities, workshops, lab environments where online we work together to learn things about the world and learn things about ourselves and learn how to work together better. So Lauren has a lot of capability and ability to come up with things that we need to be working on, such as structural racism, even within our community, and then helping the community work through them together. She's got good community organizational skills, but then also good information management, project management to make those things actually productive and persistent over time.
I cannot really say enough in words about Lauren in terms of how she has helped myself and also the projects I've been working on. Lauren is really a bridge between like you and where you are now and the future and the rest of the world. She really knows how to connect people, and she also sees like the little like gems inside of people. So when she like looks at a project or a person, she really like knows like, okay, yes, this is what you're really good at. And so I think that's like a really incredible skill when you're trying to incubate, especially a group of people, is being able to see everyone's superpowers and then being able to match them up. And so I'm really excited for seeing how Lauren could do that at a larger scale, and the amount of connections and networking that will come out of it, especially because it's focused and it's intentional.
There's this special thing that Lauren has from the years that I've known her and the years that I have followed her work, in that Lauren has the capacity to see a problem, and then she puts on her thinking cap, and then she starts generating solutions. And then she knows how to identify this issue and cultivate the community to help resolve it.
One thing that I feel that is really great in working with Lauren is that she really is attentive to the minimal details of how collective intelligence occurs between networks, groups, and collectives. So it's really interesting because let's say she goes to the nuts and bolts things to map this out via interesting dynamics, interesting methodologies. I would say breakthrough methodologies, because she's not only replicating what it exists, right? She's co-creating new methodologies or new ways to unpack or to unveil how we can really work collective intelligence for this very complex 21st century that we're living in.
That kind of brain power, that kind of intelligence is it's very special when it is connected to someone who actually has a heart and cares about the world, that cares about humanity, and has the dedication and the resilience to see a vision all the way through.
One of my talents over the last 35 years that I've honed is attracting and keeping and growing fantastic, smart, eclectic, interesting talent. Lauren has a way of creating things that have not been created before. Lauren thinks more aligned like a computer and an algorithm like machine learning than any person I've ever met. When she constructs an idea, it's algorithmic, it's sensible, it's logical, and yet it can be applied against very complicated problems in soft, supportive, empathetic ways. This is the future. This is how we have to think. We have to mix in those hard, cold, logical ideas with softer kindness, empathy. That's real power. That's the power of water cutting through a valley, the power of the Colorado River cutting through the Grand Canyon. Lauren's the Colorado River. What she creates is like the Grand Canyon.